Hey guys, back with another video. I just want to talk about something that I've been noticing online lately. Uh, Particularly, with the Odyssey just being released, and I got my quick review of that. If you guys want to check that out, if you haven't already. But obviously, there was some controversy surrounding this film as far as the casting, and I've seen some videos about the film about how the Rotten Tomato score. I think it has a 96%, 97% right now. It is fake. The film is actually losing money. It's not selling out theaters. Like if you go on Fandango right now or some of the other sites to try and purchase tickets, especially for like IMAX 70 millimeter, they're all like sold out. There's I've been seeing like some posts and videos and stuff like that, and online stuff saying like that the studio's buying the tickets, that the theater I was in was empty. Again, the film isn't really making money. It's actually a disaster or whatever. And then that the film is just woke and it's just pandering to the woke mafia, or they're paying critics off and all that stuff. And first thing I want to say is this: I have no way of truly knowing whether or not these conspiracy theories are false. Like maybe they're true. I don't personally believe it. At least I would hate to find out that like things like that. And I'm sure that it's happened in some capacity where maybe a film, maybe some critics do get paid off, or maybe the studio does tricks and stuff like that to manipulate the Rotten Tomatoes score, or the financial profit or lack thereof of the film. So I'm not saying that those kind of things don't happen, but what it seems like to me is now we're in this thing of everything, if it's deemed as woke, right? If the film has been deemed by that crowd as like being a woke film, if the film therefore goes on to have success, well, it's fake, it's false, right? Like the film is truly not, that the film really isn't succeeding, it's really not having success. I just I like all those posts about the Odyssey, about the fake Rotten Tomato score, the fake box office success, whatever. All the criticism for casting Elliot Page and Lupita Nyong'o and Zendaya. It was all this uproar over that. And I'm not implying that everything should be woke. Like I do kind of miss the days where you could be a little politically incorrect. You can make a joke in it. Comedians now, like, they can't joke the way they used to, or you can't put certain things in a movie now, or a TV show. Like I love Entourage, one of my favorite shows of all time. I've been seeing like some people would love to see it be revived, right? Or continue on with the things that they were saying, and the treatment of women in that film, the treatment of the gay community in that show. Excuse me. There's no way you can make it now. There's no way. And I do understand that to a point. I get it. But my point is, so I'm saying that to say that I don't think that everything has to be woke. Like it doesn't have to be, like we don't always have to be pushing an agenda. We can just make entertainment, and we can make jokes at the expense of whatever minority or whatever community, and they be just that, be jokes. But for the longest time, we could claim that we didn't have diversity in Hollywood. Right behind the camera or in front of it, we complained that there was a lack of diversity. And here we are, the biggest director working right now, a white guy. He casts black people in prominent roles in his film, sometimes as the lead in the case of Tenet. He casts women in prominent roles, and he's casting other minorities, in prominent roles in positive manners and in non-stereotypical manners. He's a white guy. He's the biggest director working right now. His films get a prime summer release date. They make a ton of money, reportedly, right? According to some of the things I've seen, it's not. But for the most part, from what I understand, the film is making a lot of money. The theater I was in, it was crowded. Right? They're on the biggest stage. They're probably gonna get love at the Oscars. Right? It's probably gonna get a Best Picture nomination. And there are people of color in this film. There are women in this film being portrayed. Sometimes they play a villain, something good. But my point is, they're in prominent, non-stereotypical roles. Why aren't we jumping for joy at this? We complained for so long that there was a lack of diversity. We complained for so long that minorities were not getting any love in Hollywood. They were not getting the opportunities. And now we have a white man who can do whatever he wants, who can cast whoever he wants in his film, who's going to get a massive budget, a prime summer release date, and probably love at the Oscars. Casting people of color, women, people from the gay community, or whatever other minorities there are. He's casting them in his roles. And there are so many things, people saying like, you know, like the film is just trying to be woke, or he's trying to pander. And I'm just curious. You know, Lupita Nyong'o is an Academy Award winning actress. Some people say that she should have got nominated for her performance in Us. Elliot Page, an Academy Award nominated actor. Zendaya is phenomenal in everything that she does. Is it at all possible that Christopher Nolan said, you know what, Lupita Nyong'o could really bring the Helena of Troy to life? I think that Zendaya would kill it in this role. I think that he's worked with Elliot Page before. I love working with Elliot Page. They did a great job. You know what? I think they kill it in this role. Is it possible that he didn't see color, or he didn't see gender, or he didn't see sexuality, and just said that I think this person would be amazing? These are amazing actors who've given us amazing performances time and time again. Is it at all possible that he had no agenda and he just wanted what he believed to be the best person for the role in his story, or at least his interpretation of the story? Is that at all possible? And I hope that that was the case. And if it was, isn't that what we said we wanted for the longest of times? Isn't that what the civil rights movement was about? Isn't that what all these things about equality and inclusivity and diversity? Isn't that what we've been saying we wanted, was to be judged not by the color of our skin, not by our gender, not by our sexuality, but by our character and our ability to do the job at hand? And I hope that that's what he did. I hope that he didn't look at the gender or the color or the sexuality, and he said, I just think that this person would kill it in this role. And it wasn't about trying to spread an agenda. It wasn't about trying to pin to anybody. It wasn't about trying to be woke. It was about, I think this person would do a great job. I don't care what they are. Are they a good person? Are they talented? Are they hardworking? Are they going to show up every day and do what I need them to do? That's how we should be judged. On our character, on our talents, our hard work. Not on our gender, not on our sexuality, not on our race. We said for the longest of time that that's what we wanted to be judged on. We said for the longest of time that there is no diversity in Hollywood. And now we have it. And we don't fully have it, don't get me wrong. But you telling me that if Christopher Nolan is doing it, you don't think that can only help? You don't think that putting him, like being in his film is like being on the biggest stage that you can be in Hollywood? Hopefully it's showing people that, you know, people of color or women or whatever minority group can lead films, and those films have success. Why aren't we jumping for joy? Why aren't we celebrating the fact that we have diversity and inclusivity? That hopefully he didn't look at gender or race or any other factor outside of talent or ability or character. Why aren't we happy about that thing? Why aren't we finding ways to discredit it? We said for how long, what was it, just 10 years ago? Oscars are so white. That was what, just 10 years ago, 11 years ago? Wasn't it 2015, 2016, somewhere along there? Chris Rock's monologue at that year's Oscars focused primarily on that aspect. He was making a lot of jokes about the fact. He even acknowledges at the end, he gets a little serious at the end. Hey, we're not saying that Leonardo DiCaprio isn't great, or Christian Bale or Scarlett Johansson aren't great. We're just saying, so is Lupita Nyong'o, so is Zendaya, so is Idris Elba, or whatever other, and I mentioned some of the more prominent black actors, there's a lot of talented black actors and actresses out there. Hey, can they get more opportunities? Hey, can they get more love at the Oscars? How many black men have been nominated for Best Director in the Academy's 98 history? I can think of 3 or 4 off the top of my head. It was the same thing with Sinners being the most nominated film in Oscar history last year. Oh, it was only like that because, it's a woke film or because it was a black film. But again, we complained for so long that Hollywood's racist, that Hollywood doesn't show any love to, anyone outside the white community. But when it happens, we find every reason to say that it's not real, that it's not legit. We complain about it. It's just disappointing, and I just hope that we can learn to appreciate what we're getting in regards to the diversity and inclusivity, and seeing people for their ability and not their race or their gender or whatever else. That we're looking at them solely based on how good are you at what you do. Are you going to show up every day, day in and day out? Are you going to give me your best performance day in and day out? That's what we should be judging people on. But more importantly, we should be appreciating the fact that, again, we are getting diversity from someone of Christopher Nolan's stature. Again, this man could work with anybody he wants to. He could have made this film as white as he wanted it to be. But instead, he said, hey, I'm not, hopefully, I don't know what he said, right? Obviously, but I hope that he said that I just think that Lupita Nyong'o could really bring this role to life. And he didn't look at her skin tone. He could have cast Selma Hayek in the role, right? Like, hopefully he just looked at her ability to act as an actress, not her race. And you know, it's not, to my knowledge, right? Forgive me if I'm wrong. The Odyssey is a work of fiction, and it's almost 3,000 years old. And this is an interpretation. This is his version of the story. Why can't you take artistic liberties? It happens in almost every work of art that has been turned into a film, like whether it was a book or a comic book or whatever, TV show, whatever it is, and it gets turned into a film. They take liberties. They do things to make changes to the story to fit the narrative that they're trying to tell. What is so bad about that? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That happens all the time. You know, if the film had, and I'm not somebody who loved the Odyssey, who walked out of it saying it was amazing. I liked it, I enjoyed it, but I didn't walk it. So I'm not even saying it like I'm on the bandwagon of just it's an amazing film. I'm not even on that train. Or coming out saying I loved it, it was the best film I've seen all year. No, it's not my favorite film of the year. It's not my favorite Christopher Nolan film. I didn't walk out of the theater just mind blown by it. Even if I had hated the film, I would appreciate the fact that it's diverse. That someone of his stature chose to include minorities and people of color and women in prominent roles. And again, in non-stereotypical, because how many times have we seen that as well? I think I saw an interview with, I think his name is Woody McClain. And he, you know, I don't know for sure because I didn't see the whole thing. I only saw like a clip of it, but it's a clip of him like crying in the interview and, you know, just becoming really emotional because I think he was saying that he's typecast as pretty much like the thug or the gangster or the bad boy or whatever. And, you know, he wants to just be more than just that all the time. You know, he doesn't want to just be that guy in films. And he's great at that role for sure. But he wants to be something else other than a gangster all the time. You know? He does, you know, like, Christopher Nolan is not doing that in his films. He's not casting the angry black guy or the angry black woman or the ghetto black guy or the ghetto black woman or, you know, the super feminine gay guy or the damsel in distress. He's giving them prominent roles as smart, powerful people, beautiful people. Why aren't we celebrating this? Why aren't we jumping for joy that a white man who could do whatever he wanted, cast whoever he wanted, go that route? Why aren't we coming up with all these theories as to why they were cast? And it was everything but they're talented, they're Oscar winning, they're Oscar nominated. They give us great performance after great performance. Why wasn't that the reason they were accepted into these roles or cast? It was everything but that. They're great. Maybe they're good people off screen, right? Or maybe they're hardworking, right? They show up day in and day out. Why wasn't that the reason they were casting him? He has a good relationship because some of the people in this film he worked with before. Hey, he has a good relationship with them. They work together well. Why wasn't that the reason we were saying that these people were cast? Why was it an agenda to you know, push whatever? It was just they were just pandering to the Academy or critics. Oh, the films, they're paying all these people off. Maybe those things are true for all of them. Maybe all these conspiracy theories are true for all of them. But it just sucks that now that we're getting diversity, now that we're getting inclusivity, you know, now that we're getting films that don't just have to be quote unquote like whitewashed, right? Maybe not whitewash, but now that we have films, you know, directed by black people, starring predominantly black people that are about black culture, or whatever other minority groups there are, they're getting great reviews. They're making money at the box office. They're getting love from the Academy. You know, minorities are being casted in prominent roles in non-stereotypical ways. And instead of appreciating that and being happy about it, we're finding every reason to discredit it and say that it's not real or it's not legit. It just sucks, man. Like, it's so disappointing. Again, I'm not gonna say that, you know, there's no validity to these theories, that it's never happened. I'm sure critics have been paid off. I'm sure that maybe the studios have fudged the numbers or something like that. I'm sure these things have happened. You know, it's hard to measure this never ever happened. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that it's impossible what they're saying, or that what they're saying has never happened, or that what they're saying isn't happening in this case. But I just think that at the same time, like, without truly knowing, unless you actually have the proof, then I'll take back everything I'm saying right now. But why can't we just be happy, like, that diversity is becoming more and more of a thing, inclusion is becoming more and more of a thing, and that people are being judged based on their talent and their character as opposed to gender or race or sexuality or whatever it is. That, you know, people are not being cast in stereotypical roles, or they're not playing, you know, dumb or helpless. No, they're being cast as smart and powerful and brave and honorable. And it's, you know, like, I could just go on and on. Why aren't we more happy about it? We complained for so long that we didn't have it. I just don't understand. I just don't get it, and it's so frustrating to continuously see these kinds of things being posted online, videos being made about it, articles being written about it. It just sucks. That it just seems like we're finding ways to just, like, not be happy almost. Like, that's how it kind of feels, to a point. Like, we're just finding ways to not be happy. Let me know down in the comment what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Hope you like it. Subscribe and share, please.